Hey guys, how you doing? Hope you're doing okay. Gonna read through pretty much the full article here. There's a link in the description. It is pretty detailed, and it's really horrific. More information has come out throughout the day. This article was published 2 hours ago, and yeah, it's given us more information than what we had this morning, and it's just getting worse, unfortunately. So, it's in regards to a boarding house fire in Sydney, a suburb called Newtown in the inner west suburbs of Sydney. Most people in Sydney will be familiar with the area, and there's been a fire. At first, it was thought that it could have been due to an electrical fault. Residents have complained about electrical issues for several years, apparently, according to one of the residents. However, since this morning, things have taken a well. The investigators now believe that it was arson. There was arson involved, and they're treating the situation as murder. 3 people have died. A fourth person is missing, and also at least one person is in a critical condition, an 80-year-old man who had to jump out of the window. We'll double check in a second. I can't remember if it was first or second floor. I think it was the second floor window. And I believe, again, the article will confirm by memory, I believe he suffered a heart attack. So he's in critical condition. So we're going to have a look through the details. So a boarding house is essentially a temporary home. People come and go. It's not, you would rent a room in a boarding house, but you wouldn't necessarily stay there for that long. It's typically a boarding house arrangement. A horror boarding house fire that killed 3 people in Sydney's inner city is being treated as a murder investigation. At least 3 bodies have been uncovered in the rubble, while police hold serious concerns for a fourth person following the inferno at the building in Newtown. Police have confirmed they are treating the incident as intentional after finding traces of a flammable liquid at the scene. The flames were called extremely. The flames were called extremely quickly. I'm not sure what that means. Without going into the scientific evidence so far, it would be fair to say that some type of accelerant has been used, said the assistant commissioner. We are treating this as a murder. We are treating this as a maliciously lit fire. Neighbours woke to the sound of loud explosions around 1 a.m. on Tuesday morning and found the 2-story boarding home at the intersection of Probert and Albemarle streets were alight. So this happened at around 1 a.m. Tuesday morning. It's just before 5 p.m. Tuesday. So this happened this morning, very early morning. 8 residents managed to escape the burning home before firefighters arrived, with an 80-year-old man forced to jump from the 2nd story, breaking both of his ankles upon impact. One neighbour reported hearing a massive explosion before he saw a man being dragged out of the burning building with his legs on fire. A man dragged out of the building with his legs on fire. Police say the man suffered a heart attack after being rushed to hospital and is now in a critical condition. So I think that's the guy, the elderly man, 80-year-old, that jumped out of the 2nd story window. He broke his ankles. I guess he was still within the vicinity of the building, so he had to be dragged out. I guess that's what occurred. 3 residents in total were taken to hospital with various injuries, including smoke inhalation. Police have also not been able to reach the boarding house's owner. Here's a quote from the assistant commissioner. We know who he is, the owner of the building. We have reached out to his series of addresses in Western Sydney. As of yet, we have not been able to make contact with him. It is a privately owned boarding house, and we would like that gentleman, the owner, to come forward as a matter of priority, not only to talk to us, particularly to talk to us about who was inside and the tenancies. So yeah, the police need to know who was there, you know, and if anyone else is unaccounted for. Pastry chef Mark Warner, this gentleman here, woke up at 12:45 a.m. and 15 minutes later heard a massive explosion before he saw one of his friends being dragged out of the building. Here's a quote from this gentleman, Mark Warner. Ronnie must be in his late 60s or early 70s. He's a lovely old fellow. He was in the middle of Albemarle Street. This must have been 5 minutes after I first heard the explosion. His legs were burning. I guess his trousers were alight. So there is a short video here, so I'm just going to play this for a moment. There's a picture of the devastation. Absolutely destroyed. Burnt purposefully. A murder case, a murder investigation is underway. I mean, I do have something going on in my mind, but I don't know if I should mention it. Well, I will. Insurance. Speculation on my part. I'm not really going to elaborate, but insurance. Times are tough for a lot of people out there, and house values, property values are likely decreasing. We're about to potentially enter World War III, according to some reports. One of the residents claimed that other residents have been complaining about electrical problems at the property for several years. The building is understood to be a place of refuge for the homeless, those with mental illness, and at times others on parole. Another resident was blown out of his window from the force of the fire. Here's a quote. Another guy got thrown out through his bedroom window. The corner of his room was an old shop front, so he got blown out through there. It was a hell of an explosion. So what would have exploded? You know, I'm pretty ignorant about a lot of things, but what would have exploded? Could it have been an accelerant that exploded, or would it have been something more severe than an accelerant? I don't know. Almost 40 firefighters spent more than 2 hours battling to extinguish the blaze and managed to stop the blaze from spreading to neighbouring properties. Crews were confronted with a very intense fire upon arrival, with flames on the first and second stories. So it goes into more detail concerning the fight to put out the flames, which they successfully did. Thankfully, the other properties weren't set ablaze, which of course, you know, would have been property damage, but more importantly, would have risked other people's lives. So there we go. There's this scene, which is now a crime scene. There is still a search for a fourth body in the charred wreckage. Police are investigating the local area. They're dusting they're dusting cars parked in the streets for fingerprints. Some local residents have been taken to hospital for smoke inhalation. So I'm going to wrap things up at this point. I'm going to thank you for your time, for listening. This is pretty shocking. And, you know, seemingly it's a murder. Seemingly this is arson. There was a huge explosion. Was that an accelerant? Was that something more than an accelerant? I don't know what I'm talking about. It's speculation. But regardless, 3 have died. A 4th is missing. and another is in critical condition. An 80-year-old man forced to jump out of the second story, broke both ankles on impact, and he was still close enough to the fire to have his legs on fire. He wasn't in a position to move. He wasn't in a position to put out the flames. He subsequently had a heart attack, if I understand that correctly. So unfortunately, he's in critical condition. 3 confirmed dead, and police seem to be concerned that they may find a 4th person dead amongst the rubble. The landlord hasn't been in contact with the police, according to this article, which was published 2.5 hours ago or so. My speculation, and I probably shouldn't throw speculation in, so this is pure speculation, and I'm not going to word it too thoroughly. I'm just going to say the word insurance, and you can perhaps surmise what is going on in my brain. House properties, property values are falling at the moment, and perhaps some people out there think they're about to fall even more. This was a premises in, I would presume, very rundown condition. The residents complained about electrical faults for several years, so it wasn't being adequately maintained, perhaps, allegedly. Speculation on my part again. And it was a temporary housing for vulnerable and troubled people, the mentally ill, the homeless, those on parole. I've seen little pictures and videos of this kind of premises, and they're what I've seen of premises which I believe to be similar to this. They're extremely run down. They're extremely grotty, filled with mold and just like really nasty places. But somehow landlords are still able to charge rent, and not even cheap rent, to be honest with you. Some of these places are, they're almost the cost of a motel for living in a slum. So I don't know if that is the case with this property, but I'm mentioning that for a reason. I'm going to wrap things up here. Thank you for listening. If you do like this content, if you value this type of content, and I am trying to make videos in regards to Australian incidences. I just posted another video half an hour ago about an arson attack in Melbourne, which has led to, it was caused by the husband, allegedly, potentially, and the wife is in critical condition in a suburb in Melbourne, Auburn-Vale. Do I have that right? Auburn-Vale, yeah. So again, I'll thank you for your time. If you do appreciate this video, do like, comment, subscribe, share the video. That would be great. And prayers, condolences, of course, to the victims and the victims' families, and we hope that everyone that is injured is able to make a full recovery. If anyone's aware of a GoFundMe, please do mention it in the comments, and I'll create a link to be put into the details. Thank you.